Well, let's run today's video a little different. We'll do the business part first so that you business types can get back to work. We've been carrying you guys a long time. Time for you to do the work. Just kidding. My name's Brian, and I bought an abandoned railroad. Is it the right thing to do? Jury's still out. It's kind of almost 25,000 people who are subscribers kind of hold my coffee and watch this. Who knows if this will really work out? I know my skills in the mechanical side are sufficient, but maybe in the business side, not so much. We're facing significant headwinds in insurance and how we organize the railroad. And Class 3, Surface Transportation Board Class 3 is what we would be if we pursued that. But what I found out was that even if we were a Class 3, our size and the way this is set up prohibits us from really having a spot at the table when freight rates are set and when the money's divvied up. Even though we originated the freight, we would really be relegated to charging for services within the last mile, but we can't charge for the last mile. That's maybe saying it best. Our services are going to be in addition to, and maybe highly valuable, but in addition to the charges that the railroad has. So becoming a Class 3, although it would be impressive, I'm sure some of you would congratulate us and be happy for us. It brings on retirement board, certain FRA inspections, quite a bit of paperwork and requirements which aren't my strong suit. If you've watched me work and heard me talk, quick to act, willing to gamble. If this doesn't work, we're going to figure out another way. If what we did makes it worse, we learned something. And that really doesn't fit very well with being a Surface Transportation Board regulated railroad. So those, for me to re-say it, are the two headwinds we're facing: insurance and how to organize ourselves and how to bill. Now, there is a little bit of an explanation on why maybe it seems like we've slowed down on Death Valley. Some of the reasons I haven't done that yet is there are some property owners that have trackage rights over our property to ensure that they always have the availability of rail. Well, in that easement, it says that they have to pay to maintain the rail. So my goal, my strategy has been to open up the railroad, make it functional. We've got a locomotive, we've got means to repair, we've cleaned it up. You can walk and say, yes, this is operational. But the railroad inspecting it would want more work done. And my goal, my strategy was to get it opened up that far, but possibly leave work to be done so that anybody that's coming in would share in the rebuilding, share in the cost. If it's completely done, they're going to look at it and say, well, this is ready to go, and we won't have to share in any of the cost. So if a big customer comes in, like to the bakery, they would look at it and they would have some expense to share. And I'm sure we'd be a much smaller entity and that would only be appropriate. So that's why I've slowed down a little bit on Death Valley. Now this machine's critical for replacing the ties in Death Valley. So we're chugging ahead. But that's why I didn't go ahead and completely rebuild that at our own expense. It would have made great video, but maybe business-wise it wasn't the best strategy. So there's the strategy we're working on as far as Death Valley. Well, that was easy. This is called a Lovejoy coupling. We're going to see if this will now fit on the new Predator. Well, I just twisted the Allen wrench, so that may take some heat, just a little bit of heat right here, and that'll thread right out. Another use of heat. If you stick around today, you might see me take a torch to this machine. We may have to open up some more clearance right here. So this will get set off to the side momentarily. Okay, so here's the moment of truth, the moment we've all waited for, and that is, will this pump mount up on there? Now what I see that I like is this hole pattern is tighter at the top than at the bottom. That matches that, and this radius right here, I hope is some kind of universal radius that'll match the inside of this. Should have cleaned this up, but since the camera's rolling, we'll go ahead. Yes, there it is. This is the pump off the Honda. Now, we're not out of the woods yet, because I don't have the Lovejoy coupling in there. And this isn't the pump that came on the machine. Here's the pump. Well, so there you see it. If I'm going to use this engine on this machine, it's going to take the pump and the bracket off the Honda. Here's the bracket off the Wisconsin, which had 2 bolt holes for this pump. So what this setup here would require is getting the new cartridge. We talked about that last week. The cartridge is the rotor and the vanes, and then the piece that it rides in. It's kind of oblong, so it develops pressure on the way around. That would need to be replaced into here. So that's kind of an update on that. I do think that we're going to need to cut away right here. I'm going to bring the tie removing head over and install it so that we know how much room we need. But good news. Thank you again, Mr. Sayre. The pump's going to bolt up. This will be successful. Well, as it turns out, the shaft on the new engine is the same diameter as the shaft on the Honda. So I will move the coupling onto the shaft here. We'll reuse this. Now you can tell what this does. This allows for a little bit of shock absorption. When these get old, they get hard and brittle, but it also allows you, I wish I had 2 hands free, for there to be a little bit of misalignment in the coupling without tearing stuff up. If you put a solid sleeve over both shafts, it would have to be perfectly aligned, or you would have this directional movement and you could have just misalignment that would be very, very hard on the bearings. This allows you to get it close and for it to be fine. So that'll go in there. This is going to be the new length. Still don't know which way we're going to rotate this engine, but obviously inbound, outbound. Here's where I'll get the numbers to buy the rebuild kit. And I'll keep you in the loop on what that'll cost. That'll be this section from right here to right here. Oh, there's the mounting holes are back in the back. I thought it was these 4 bolts went all the way through, but it's not. It's a smaller 4 pattern inside, whereas the other pump had 2 bolts and it was much wider. So I don't think that we'll do that. I think we'll go this direction. I'll keep you in the loop. Many of you have got machinist background, hydraulic background. I'd appreciate your input on this. Thank you so much. The other opportunity that might come up is loading steel outbound. What I would like to buy is a rolling gantry crane. A lot of times the brand is MyJack. I'll put pictures in so you can see what I mean. If it could span a gondola and be able to go right over to a tractor trailer like they do with containers in the big yards, that would be amazing for loading scrap, unloading telephone poles, structural steel. That would be the cat's meow. Pull a tractor trailer underneath there, right up out of the gondola, right over and right onto the tractor trailer. That would be how to do that efficiently. So that's an up and coming possibility. So we do have some things like that going on. It's a little bit slow. I wish I were a better salesman. If I could go out and really beat the bushes, could I have found more? Could I have found business for the ETR by now? I think so. And I got to recognize that that's a shortcoming in my personality and my skill set. Not a very good salesman of what the ETR has to offer. I like the equipment. I'm happier doing this, but that other part is really, really important. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you that likes and subscribes. That's what's paying the property tax. You might ask, Brian, how do you keep this going if you haven't made any revenue yet? It's YouTube pays the property tax and allows us to develop this, because someday we're going to have freight rolling in and out of here and it'll all be worth it. So I'd like to thank you all. 25,000 almost now, and that's really incredible. That means there's 25,000 of you that are rooting and voting for us and wishing good luck. And so could we have made much greater progress by now with the railroad, with the rehabilitation? I think some could. I'm a huge fan of R.J. Corman. If you haven't watched it, go watch the video on his life and his accomplishments called Working Hard to Be Lucky. I think he could take this place and you wouldn't recognize it. It would be so much better. And those guys are few and far between. I've kind of spent part of my life looking at guys like that. Anything they touch ends up well organized, running well, although you still fight inhibitors to business, but they overcome them. So could we be bigger and better by now? I think some would. Will this work? Could you do this? Could you and your cousin and your friends at work buy a stretch? I believe you could. I believe it's a great dream. I may be living your dream, but how does it end? That's why we stay tuned, because we really don't know. Appreciate all your comments, your advice, and your well wishes. Really like meeting you guys at the subscriber meetups. Those are a blast for me. I didn't sleep the night before the first one. I was so nervous. Didn't know what I'd say or what people would ask, but as it turns out, just a bunch of good old people that like railroading and think this is an amazing project. So that's what makes us strong. That's what unites us, and I just love it. Thank you all.